What's up, Navigating Academia family? I hope you guys are having a great week so far. This is your buddy and personal academic mentor, Dr. Phoenix Singh, coming at you to be able to continue my series here on the top 8 biggest tips that I have for you in terms of building wealth as an academic. The first tips that I've given you guys, the first 4, this is number 5, the first 4 are all about things that I think that you should do, but number 5 and number 6 are going to be things that I think that you don't necessarily need to do. Now, of course, if you desire to do them, then you should certainly consider that. You guys know me here on this channel. I'm a big believer in following your passions, following your dreams, and doing it with your eyes wide open and walking into it with as much information as possible. So what we're going to go ahead and do here today is talk about tip number 5, which is essentially not to worry about mentors, business plans, or self-help books with curse words in the title. Now, I say that to be a little bit facetious, but I'm also quite serious at the exact same time. In kind of the contemporary culture, I'm a millennial. I was born in 1986. I can tell you guys that kind of especially over the past 5 to 10 years, especially with kind of the proliferation not just of YouTube, but also with kind of newer age platforms, specifically Instagram and TikTok, what's happened is that there really has been this big focus on kind of hustle economy, side gigs, these sorts of things to be able to generate significant more cash flow, or at least what is being told to be significant additional cash flow, but in many cases it's not. I have a lot of friends internationally who've gotten, pulled into things like, what's it called? Drop shipping and this kind of stuff. Paid, $2,000-$3,000 to be able to get a shop set up for them by somebody else. They had seen Instagram ads or, YouTube ads before, videos that they usually enjoy watching, and all of a sudden they're down thousands of dollars, and if they're making money, they're making so little that it'll take them literally years just to be able to recoup that initial investment, and after that the amount of passive income that they're going to be receiving is marginal at best, particularly if they want to actually spend any time on it. They're basically wasting money compared to other things that they could be doing. So I'm not a big believer in any kind of, get-rich-quick scheme or anything like this. I think that making money in a steady way for a lengthy period of time and investing in a very consistent fashion, in a diversified way, this is the best way to be able to grow wealth. I genuinely believe that, and I think that right now there's a lot of bad information that's out there, specifically having to do with, the requirement to be able to have some kind of a business mentor, particularly if you don't have a business background. We're going to talk more about that in my 6th tip. I'll make a separate video on that, obviously. But the concept that if you don't have a mentor, and in many cases, like, well, I can't find a mentor, and so what are you going to do? Okay, well, you pay somebody to be able to kind of be your mentor in business. What? Right? In terms of developing kind of these contemporary skill sets that you need, and I guess that you've always needed, right, in business in terms of sales and marketing, even though these days it's more digital sales, digital marketing, and so forth, right? These are things that you can learn through just, $10 in late fees from your local library, watching, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of YouTube, and just making a whole bunch of mistakes. Going to meetups, meetup.com, right, to be able to meet folks with similar interests, getting on LinkedIn groups, getting into even Facebook groups, meeting random people, having these conversations, and really kind of growing together with other people. You don't need some single mentor who, supposedly has a frickin' Lambo and is telling you, oh, I make, $30,000 a month, and you can make $30,000 a month as well, selling a mug that you bought on AliExpress on Amazon. Guys, come on, right? It is much better to be able to follow some of the guidance I've given you guys in the past tips, like, again, don't just be an asset, but build an asset, these sorts of things. This is a better long-term investment of your time, right? And I would argue a better long-term investment of your heart, right, of your soul that you're going to put into these things, because at the end of the day, your time, was it Thoreau who ended up saying, right, that, show me what a man spends his time on and I'll show you, what he loves, something like that, right? Again, I'm sure I'm butchering it. I'm sure it wasn't Thoreau, but you get the idea. It's still a good saying, right? So I do not believe that you need a mentor. I do not believe that. Right? I've had people in my life who have been deeply inspirational to me in business, deeply inspirational to me in academia, but I would not call them mentors in those different areas. I would say somebody like my father has been a mentor to me, like as a man, and in terms of just watching how he worked during his life, but Dad's a telecom guy. right? Dad also, in terms of his focus with regards to building businesses, is very different to mine. Mine is going exceptionally fast and bootstrapping, versus Dad's is, going at a measured pace, raising external funds and not bootstrapping, building teams, this kind of stuff, but large-scale teams. He's amazing at it, right? But he can't really be a mentor to me in terms of my style of doing things and how I like to do things. So it's just not possible. So if I can succeed without a mentor, you can succeed without a mentor. That's the first thing that I'm saying, right? You can succeed without business coaches and this kind of stuff. Do I do business coaching? Yes. Will I probably lose money from saying you don't need a business coach? Probably. But a lot of people at the same time, they don't have active symptoms of a major mental illness, but they like to be able to go and see a therapist because it helps to give them some accountability, and it helps to be able to have somebody external who's objective and who also can be a cheerleader. And I think that in some cases, if you've got somebody who's a coach, they can be really good at that. But like I've said in other videos in this series, do not get a coach who is not successful in business themselves. Preferably in the kind of business that you want to run. So for example, if you want to be in healthcare administration, or you want to be in, financial technology, so fintech, find that somebody who's been successful in fintech, and successful, right? Not just somebody in fintech, not somebody who attended a weekend seminar and got a piece of paper from Stanford, which they paid too much for in the first place, saying that all of a sudden they're a certified coach, right? In that particular, fintech space. Guys, this is foolishness, okay? Find somebody who has done what you want to do, right? And is actually a good teacher, okay? This goes beyond just kind of somebody telling you what to do. Okay, this is about you discovering yourself and your own preferred way of doing things. You're going to feel imprisoned and trapped if all you do is take somebody else's perspective and then you basically say, okay, well, that person succeeded, so I guess this is the only way, because I guarantee you that it's not. And I remember when I first got into business with my first company back when I was 25 or 26, and everybody told me in academia this is a terrible idea. I mean, I had people calling me names. I had people, sending emails about me, getting drunk at, dinners at conferences and calling me names and all this kind of stuff. It's so stupid, and this isn't like psychology, right? You would expect these to be the most empathic human beings alive, and most of the time that's not the case, sadly, right? But you just need to know that this is like the world of this kind of stuff, and, if you are the founder and CEO of business, you will always be the best salesman, you will always be the best person for marketing, you will always care more than anybody else. I'm just telling you right now, right? You can pay somebody $1 bajillion a year to be able to, sell your stuff, right? But at the end of the day, they will not have that same passion for the product as you will, unless they somehow have a huge equity stake in the business like you do, okay? People can be better at things than you, and you should know what your personal weaknesses are. And a lot of the times people say, focus on like addressing your weaknesses. To an extent that's true, but after you kind of, get mediocrely good at something, right? You should focus on your strengths and find people who are good where you are weak, right? And this way, at least, you know how to do things even if you hate them. So God forbid that person disappears, right? Your whole company doesn't go up in flames. Right? Be that a big company, a large company. In previous videos in this series, we've talked about the differences between lifestyle companies versus companies that are basically built to be able to scale and sell. And we can talk about that more if anybody would like to. But anyway, and when it comes to business plans, it's the same thing. Very dear friend of mine 2 years ago called me up and he's like, hey man, can we meet, get some coffee? I want to talk to you about some business stuff. And I'm like, of course. So we get together, a dear friend, old friend of mine, and he said, so he brings up this Excel spreadsheet. Anybody who knows me knows that I love a good Excel spreadsheet, right? Daria, whenever she looks at my computer, 75% of the time it's not social media, it's like an Excel spreadsheet. I freaking love it. And the thing is that he had this whole, massive business plan that he had built, right? And it was basically want to make a new e-commerce platform and these sorts of things. And when he was walking me through the business plan itself, it was pretty clear that he hadn't thought about kind of some really fundamental things just about really any kind of business, right? In terms of running it. And his whole thing, his whole driving notion behind this platform was, if we can just get 1% of the market share of Amazon, I'm going to be a billionaire. If I can just get 1%, and I'm really confident that I can get 1%. And you have to understand, guys, that I love the gusto, I love the hustle, again, you need to be, like I said in one of my previous tips, you need to be a bit naive, right? You need to be unflinchingly confident, right? You need to be very, very humble at the same time. And I can tell you that It didn't go anywhere because, like I usually say, people are not entrepreneurs; they're wantrepreneurs. They want a lifestyle, but they don't really understand what being an entrepreneur actually is, in terms of it being extraordinarily high risk, and very low reward for long periods of time. The average entrepreneur doesn't get a single hit in terms of succeeding at a company their first like 4 or 5 times, right? And each one of these life cycles can be anywhere from a year to 10 years long. I mean, you could your whole life be going trying to get one hit, and it could never happen. It's possible, right? That's the risk. But it's one of these things where it's like a disease. If you've got it, if you've caught the bug, right? If you've caught the different form of a virus, which is being an entrepreneur, like you have a hard time helping yourself. That's just like your personality. It's in your DNA, and it's really hard to work for other people in that case. Now, in some cases, it's hard to work with other people because you have problems, and you need to learn how to play with other people. Right? You're not some like independent boss dude or boss chick. You're just a bit of a brat, right? And I see a lot of those people as well. Sounds mean, but you guys know that I'm always tell you guys the truth on this, right? So you need to learn how to play well with others as well. You guys know on this channel what I always say, right? Be a pleasure. Be a pleasure to talk to, be a pleasure to work with, be a pleasure for everything. Way too often in this day and age, right? Which is a very postmodern era that we're in right now, cancel culture, all this kind of stuff. Literally the concept that like anybody disagrees with you or whatever means that, oh my gosh, like I'm being oppressed, my opinion is being oppressed and this kind of stuff. I think most people need to be quiet and just work their ass off, and you'll end up seeing results that you didn't see before. I have people telling me all the time, other people who, for example, are Indian. I'm Indian, right, ethnic minority, right, here in the United States. People saying it's like, oh, like brown people or whatever, like fellow Indians and these sorts of things, we have to work twice as hard. And I always say the same thing. It's like, okay, then work 2.5x as hard. Because then no one can deny it, that you're better than they are, right? And like for me, I've run into racist incidents. We've talked about this on the channel before, right? I really have never let that faze me at all. I think I am testament to my parents, frankly, right? But it's just one of these situations, right, where like oftentimes when things aren't working for us, instead of saying, I got to put my nose down and just drive harder, instead, we just blame other things. We blame circumstances instead of looking in the mirror and this kind of stuff, right? And you don't need a business coach to tell you guys that, right? And when it comes to business plans, at the end of the day, you need to sell things, period, right? If you can't sell, you're screwed. You can create the greatest product or service out there that's ever been. It can be affordable, right? It can be something that's desperately needed, right? And it can be amazing quality, okay? But if you can't convince somebody else who clearly, in your eyes, who clearly needs it, if you can't convince them that they need it badly enough, right, you will not make a dime, right? Not in a lifestyle business, not in terms of a business where you're trying to get the hockey stick and sell it a multiple, none of it. Right? So it's very, very important that you learn how to be able to sell. And most people, including me back then, right, back in the day when I started all this, I sucked at sales, right? This takes a long time to be able to develop. And yeah, some people are naturally better at it than others, right? But some people, like for me, it took a lot of work. I'm really good at talking to people and these things. I love educating and this kind of stuff. But I really didn't understand the concepts that underlie being a good salesperson. Right? And you can be a good salesperson selling somebody kind of really cheap stuff and these sorts of things, right? But when you want somebody to, like B2B sales, like selling your business selling to another business, big institutional contracts, this is a totally different game, right? And you really need to get to know your customers fundamentally well. There's so much stuff that goes into it, and a lot of it is relationship building, and you cannot model relationship building. My recommendation always is that you build a minimal viable product of whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, so maybe you want to do a business coaching type thing, right? Maybe you've had some success in financial technology. You've been in corporate finance for 10 years or whatever, right? And you wanted to be a CTO and you got passed up for the opportunity. You want to do your own thing. God bless. Okay, great, right? Okay, so what you need to do is to be able to make sure people actually hire you. The fact that you've got 10 years of financial experience working for a huge fintech company like Square or something like this, right? It doesn't mean people will hire you. Right? Trust me on this one. When I sold my first company or whatever, I was just like, hey, I'm barely 30, right? I'm in like an academia space, how is it possible that anybody would ever even be willing to hire me, right? And I just like, it's so obvious to me, though, that they should, because if they want to make money, I can teach them exactly how to do that, because I've been there with no mentors, with nobody telling me what to do, and I have figured it out. I've made a million mistakes, and then I ended up being successful. I can make sure that other people don't have to make those mistakes. And let me tell you right now, there are incumbents in fields. You can't forget that. Right? You're not going to be the new McDonald's on the block. McDonald's took, so many decades, like a century, to be able to build itself up, right? There are people who are there already at the top of the hill. And if you really think that they're going to, let you just come up and wander up the hill or whatever and get money that could be theirs just because of abundance mentality or manifesting things, you're out of your mind. You're truly out of your mind, okay? Mindset is critical, which is great. Stop reading freaking self-help books every 10 seconds, though, thinking that, spending 50 hours reading self-help books versus making 50 hours worth of mistakes and trying to sell and building a really good MVP, minimal viable product. Half of it is telling you what you want to hear, right? Building you up. But what it's building up in you, yes, to a certain extent is motivation, but to a certain extent, it's that entrepreneur part of you. The entrepreneur part is, I used to go to this one club or whatever, and they used to call the journey through hell. Being an entrepreneur is a journey through hell, right? So you can either do the hard work, which really sucks most of the time, right? But is putting you further down that line of what you truly believe is right. And at the end of the day, people talk so much about follow your passion, as if every day you're going to wake up and you just want to go to work and like work 24 hours a day and this kind of stuff. And guys, it's just not like that. It's like going to the gym, right? You won't always be passionate about it, right? But you got to just kind of keep moving. You got to be like a shark, right? It's like literally you have to keep moving or you'll die. And that's basically what it is, right? So the last thing that I've got to say on that matter is, there's a lot of these pop books that come up or whatever, Subtle Art of Not Giving Up, boop, and this kind of stuff. That came out. Supposedly that's a great book or whatever. And it's a very cute little trope, I get it. But supposedly it's a really good book, and I think that's awesome. It's great to be able to read books that motivate you, right? The issue is that when something takes off and it's really popular, like remember when that book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell came out? And then all of a sudden, like every freaking book had the exact same style of cover as Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. I absolutely did. Then it's definitely the case where, you have all these different books, and all of a sudden, right, you have, Not Giving an F or whatever, and then all of a sudden people start having stuff about, like, how not to give a crap, where the, the A in crap or whatever was the little A, right, the little at A, right, hashtag, like shit, where the I in shit or whatever is a star, these sorts of things or whatever start coming out because people know they can make a quick buck off of it, right, and financially makes a lot of sense, but unfortunately the people who end up buying it are the ones who largely are getting duped. So try to get the 1% of gold out of those sorts of books if you can get them, which is great, but after that, let's get going, right? If you want to make money, right, if you want to build a business, right, the right thing to do is to literally just work every hour that you can, right? I am a big Elon Musk fan, and he just said, like, work like hell all the time, as many hours of the day as you can. It's not romantic, it's not sexy, it's not a jet set lifestyle, it's not any of these sorts of things. It's definitely not flashy, right? But it is, that's the reality of it, and amazing things can happen if you do that, because you gotta buy a ticket to the lottery if you want to win it, right? And unfortunately, it is true, you can waste an epic amount of time, an epic amount of money, etc., and not succeed. Right? And a lot of people prefer in this life to be able to sit around and to be able to talk about what could have happened or whatever. And I just didn't have the time to, but I came up with Uber before Uber came out, and then I came out with Airbnb. I came up with it before it was actually popular, so on and so forth. Please don't be that person, y'all. Please don't be that person, okay? So mentors, nice to have, not essential, right? Business plans, down the line, critical. You have to have them, right? Especially the assumptions that you're going to build into them, right, are absolutely critical. But initially, if you don't have something people will buy, nobody cares, right? Minimal viable product, see if anybody will buy it. If so, build that plane while you're flying it, baby. That's what I'm saying, right? And finally, self-help books, they have a place. Stop buying into the cutesy schmoozy shit, right? And just get down to work. Right? That's what this is, guys. It is a grind. It is a grind. Just like grad school is a grind, if you want to make money as an academic, it's a grind. But I do believe that you can do it. And if you're interested in doing it together, you can go ahead and book an appointment with me down below, and we can get started on coaching. Let's make some money.